John's Hard Times in the Maritimes. It's great to see you all here. And in 5 minutes, I'm going to explain why St. John is simultaneously a wonderful place to grow up as a creative person and also the worst place ever, and what we should do about that. So first, on the plus side, the leisurely pace of life. As kids, those of us who grew up here had hours to sit in the back seat and watch as ditches full of cattails flick past and yards full of junk cars. We could snuggle up to the space heater and read on snow days. And if we were lucky, we had our parents who would allow us to get whatever we wanted out at the library. Also, if we were lucky, we had one or two good teachers who inspired us. And failing that, we at least opted to jig at the public library and forge our own paths to enlightenment. In addition to the idyllic rural vibe that we get here in St. John and in New Brunswick as a whole, folks growing up here are confronted at every turn by history, which is, of course, a wonderful thing for any writer. That respect for tradition is crucial when you're trying to create your own work. And here we have the churches, the cemeteries, the derelict parks, the monuments that simply never changed in the first place from the time that they were created. And, of course, we have the Atlantic Ocean as well, which is both perhaps the ultimate reminder of both the endlessness of history and our own insignificance within time. So perhaps it's this intimacy in the past that's why New Brunswick isn't very good at living in the now. The tendency is to search for our identity in some idealized era in the past, whether it's the age of sail or before the fire or the 80s, or at some magic point in the future, when all of the prodigal sons and daughters come back from out west, or when the pipeline's built or some other arbitrary point. And of course, figuring out how to actually stay in this place and do the things that you love also takes a really good imagination. Artists here often wonder, is the art that we're creating actually good for is it good or is it good for New Brunswick? Because those are two really different things. A lot of people dismiss art as local in its focus, as being somehow irrelevant to the rest of Canada. And this rebranding of St. John as the Renaissance city is something that a lot of people that I've been talking to find both annoying and potentially damaging. Because in the Renaissance, as we'll recall, there was a huge investment in the arts. There was a huge, by the ruling class, it made possible the masterworks of Michelangelo, of Botticelli, of Leonardo da Vinci. Instead, what we've been seeing here is cuts to arts funding, higher unemployment, the cancellation of the provincial tuition rebate, and the fact that for the first time in our recorded history as a province, more people actually died than were born in New Brunswick in 2014. So if we accept that this is the Renaissance, then why are so many writers and musicians moving away, or they're uninspired and creating less? Who exactly is experiencing the Renaissance? That's the question. So we keep hearing that the most talented and intelligent young people are being siphoned elsewhere. We've heard it so often that it's created sort of a chilling effect on what many people expect, not just from our creative work, but from our lives. Because if the best and the brightest are leaving, then what does that make us? So what do we do with that? What do we do with the tension? I would argue that the only answer is to speak honestly about the experience of being a young person in New Brunswick. And I think writers in particular need to forget the Cape Breton ripoffs of Angela's Ashes, no more misty narratives about the lighthouse keeper's daughter, or the snow on the leaves, or the dew and the flowers. We need to murder these tired regionalist tropes. What we need are stories about, and novels about, being a call center employee in Uptown St. John, or about being a gay teen in Fredericton, or about being a French feminist in Moncton. Nobody is writing that stuff, and we should. Acknowledging the underrepresentation of certain voices brings me to another point, which is, in order to effectively communicate the reality of St. John, we need to question and challenge the idea that simple cheerleading and boosterism is enough. While we do need to love our city, the nuanced reality is actually better than any hashtag could express. The beauty is complicated. And in order to capture that complicated beauty, we need a broader perspective. And that means consuming media of all types, of all ages and provenances. That could mean familiarizing yourself with municipal and federal politics and how that works. It could mean reading Victorian mystery novels and seeing in them a reflection of our seaside cliffs and windswept landscapes. It could be seeing a reflection of your relatives and the complicated families of Dostoevsky or Jeffrey Eugenides. all of these other art forms contain little fragments of what we see here in New Brunswick. And by collecting them, we can amalgamate them into our own unique voice. So we need to get informed. We're contending with 60% illiteracy rate, and we need the best tools at our disposal possible. And for this reason, reading in this province continues to be a subversive act and underrated as such. Finally, young people in New Brunswick need first to feel passionately about the work that they're doing, and then try to infect other people with their own passion. Because in order to hold up a reflection to the rest of Canada of who we are in New Brunswick, we need to know our own narrative and be able to express that as a province. So, finally, let's make art that both acknowledges the limitations and the beauty of this place, and challenge the idea that being in this place is not worth writing and speaking very frankly about. Thank you.